Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. You are about to take part in a full 45-minute yoga class. This is a class that I taught live earlier today. Because of the time restrictions, I do not include a Shavasana in this class. I will remind at the end of the class if you do want to take that time for yourself to lay back and be quiet and close your eyes. But this is 45 minutes of instruction. This is my own personal teaching style. I originally trained in Ashtanga Vinyasa, and about half the class is really focusing on sun salutation A and B and different variations. I teach in a style that focuses on alignment and being gentle with your body and really tuning in to the subtleties and sensations within your body. I come with a preventative and injury prevention approach. I hope you enjoy the class. All you really need for this class is a yoga mat, and I'd love to hear your feedback and see if this works. Thanks guys, enjoy. Closing your eyes, anchoring your toes into the floor, letting your arms hang wherever they're most comfortable. Trying not to judge the position of your body at this point in time. And just noticing where your breath travels most easily. Maybe you notice your rib cage lift or expand. Maybe your breath travels into your belly. As much as you can, allowing your breath to travel in and out of your nose while you practice. It encourages you to use a more controlled and steady breath. And it is a good teacher for if you're maybe exerting yourself a little bit more than you should be, and it lets you know when to slow down, when to take a break, when to maybe take a different variation of a posture. Bringing all of your attention down into your feet. Turning your awareness to your toes, shifting your body weight slightly forward. And then slightly back towards your heels. Just going back and forth a few times. As you do this, bringing your attention to other areas of the body. Noticing what your legs need to do when you change your center of gravity. Noticing what's happening in your hips, your lower back, maybe even in your belly, your rib cage, your chest. Everything else in your body needs to reorient itself when one thing shifts, especially how we're in contact with the ground. Finding that place that feels most balanced, feels most comfortable. It may be very different for you than it is for me. And then shifting left to right. Very slightly here, thinking 1 or 2 inches, tiny little shifts, and really slowly so you can notice those subtleties. Now here might be a little bit less above the hips, maybe more that you might feel in the knees and in the pelvis. I get you to do this to really focus in your attention, and the first couple times you do this, you might not feel much of anything at all, but my goal with our practice together is for you to feel the little things, feel the subtleties, so that you can make adjustments before little things become big things and you're actually experiencing pain in your everyday life. Coming to your mat is a practice, and it's a practice for the rest of the time that you're out moving your body. And developing that sensitivity is a really great skill to have. So again, finding that center point, finding that place where you feel like you're evenly weighted between your left foot and your right foot. And then bringing your attention to your hips, tilting your pelvis backwards and forwards. And you may notice opening through the front of the belly or through the back. For me today, I actually, when I tip my tailbone down, I feel it all the way in between my shoulder blades. But these big long muscles that run down the length of the spine. And just today, that seems to be where I'm feeling that anchor point. You might need to create a little bit more contraction in the core than you normally do. Something that I'll mention is drawing your hips and your ribs towards each other, not necessarily folding, but creating a little bit of tension while still keeping the chest lifted. This helps to protect more than anything the lower back from overextending, which is a tendency in yoga that I try to avoid. So kind of finding that stable standing Shavasana, taking a nice big breath in. And then as you exhale, letting your chin drop to your chest, feeling the back of the neck lengthen. And then slowly allowing the crown of your head to become heavy as you roll forward. You may feel different areas stretch or different tenderness. If you start to feel this in the lower back or the hamstrings, bring a bend to the knees at some point. We're all going to get there. Allowing the arms to hang, we're going to continue to hang forward. Fingertips may or may not reach the ground, but we're trying to get the heart below the hips here. Letting the arms dangle or grabbing opposite elbows, shaking your head yes and no. And then maybe swaying the whole upper body, dangling from the hips. Continuing to breathe here. Releasing the arms if you're holding elbows, coming all the way back up, rolling out the shoulders. If your eyes are still closed, awesome. Keep them closed as long as you like. We're going to move into our sun salutations in a moment. Hands and feet move together here, so you don't need to worry too much about balance, and it's a great chance to stay inward and to stay connected with what you're feeling in your body. If you haven't practiced with me before, I try to use a lot of descriptive words so you don't have to look as much. Taking a nice big breath in, reaching your arms overhead. You can take them to your sides, or you can take them through center, whatever feels good. Keeping the hips and the ribs contained and drawn towards each other. Bending the knees nice and deep as you exhale, fold forward. Lengthening the back of the legs, nice long spine. Hands to knees, halfway lift. Thinking a tabletop back, sticking your tailbone back behind you, and drawing the shoulder blades towards each other. Exhale, taking the hands to the ground. We're going to take a really simple first variation sun salutation. Stepping your knees back to tabletop, and then inching your knees back to an extended tabletop. Shoulders are resting over wrists, creating a long line. We're going to lower halfway down, elbows beside the ribs. Exhale. Taking a pause when you reach that halfway point. Inhale again. Exhale, lower all the way down to the mat. Just resisting gravity a little bit there. Untucking your toes. Hands are beside the chest. Elbows are tucked in like a grasshopper. Inhale, lifting the chest and the hands together. Exhale, lower. Try to keep the toes touching the ground here. The legs stay as relaxed as possible. Inhale, lifting up, strengthening the spinal muscles. Exhale, lower. You're looking at the ground the whole time. Inhale, lifting up, reach the back of your head towards the ceiling. Now lower the palms and just take one more inch. Baby cobra. The arms are doing most of the work here. Exhale, back to the floor. Coming back to your tabletop, this is where you want to line up all of your bones. Tuck your toes under, lift the knees off of your mat, and then shift your weight back towards your heels. So you've got your arms in downward dog position, look back at your feet, and pedal out those heels. It is Monday, maybe the calves are feeling a little tight. Everyone's getting out walking with this beautiful weather, so really be kind to those seasonal changes in the body. We're changing our footwear, we're using our bodies in different ways than we did in the winter. Even if you're active in the winter, the footwear that we use in the spring and summer is allows a lot more mobility in the feet than winter footwear. So sometimes we have to wake up muscles that maybe have gotten a little lazy over the last couple of months. So really being gentle with that first downward dog here, reaching your weight back towards your feet. Take a nice big breath in, bend the knees a little bit deeper, and then walking your feet towards your hands. Halfway lift, inhale again, nice bent knees, tabletop back, squeeze the shoulders, lift the tailbone. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, reaching the hands all the way to the sky. Exhale, folding forward, round two. Again, like always, we're going to do a different variation with each sun salutation when we lower. Take what works for you, and if we get too challenging, pick something else that's a little bit easier. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, bring your hands down to the floor, step back, maybe straight back to that extended tabletop. Elbows are gonna come close to the body here. Lower down to that halfway point, resist gravity, getting the arms to work a little. Inhale, exhale all the way down. Untuck the toes, reach your arms down at your sides. Inhale, lifting the palms off the ground, lift the chest. Exhale, lower, those legs stay relaxed. Hands are lifted the whole time. Inhale, lifting up. Squeezing everything on the back of the body. Exhale, lower, arms stay lifted. One more time, lifting up. That whole spinal erector chain is activated. Hands come under the shoulders. Press one more inch. Shoulders are drawn back and down. Exhale, back to the floor. Tuck your toes. Tabletop, lining up all of your bones. Pressing the toes into the floor to lift your knees. Reach the hips back towards the heels. And then start to pedal out those legs as you look back at your feet. I always have to remind myself to let the neck hang. It just wants to work so hard. It's always holding up our head, so it really is a conscious decision to let that head dangle. Staying with your breath here, this is our rest pose. If you need another rest pose, you can always lower the knees down into child's pose during these downward dogs. You're still getting that lengthening in the spine, just taking away that resistance with gravity. Taking a nice big breath in, bending the knees, and exhale, walking the feet towards the hands. Halfway lift, inhale, finishing up that second sun salutation. Exhale, fold. Inhale, hands to the sky. Exhale, folding forward, round 3. Inhale, halfway lift. Noticing everything we're doing is symmetrical here, getting the left and right to work together. Exhale, hands down, stepping the feet back. We're going to challenge ourselves a little bit here. If you need to lower the knees, go ahead. But let's see if we can keep the knees lifted this time. Hands are pressing into the floor, and then start to bend the elbows. Take a pause. Halfway lift, or sorry, no, not a halfway lift. Take a breath in. And then exhale all the way down to the ground. Untucking the toes. Nice thing about working from home is that we all have usually a lot more space beside us outside the mat. So we're going to take our arms out to the side. So making the arms into a T shape, or as if you're going to give someone a giant hug. Looking at the mat. So you're keeping the back of your neck nice and long. Keeping the legs relaxed. Inhale, lift the arms, squeeze the shoulder blades. Exhale, it's like you're taking flight. Lower the chest, keep the arms lifted. Inhale, lifting up again. Kind of like a big Superman here. Exhale. One more time, inhale, lifting up. Bring those hands into underneath the shoulders. Press the hands down, find that baby cobra. Exhale, let it go. Nice. Tucking your toes, coming back to tabletop. And you might start to glide right back to that downward dog now. Take a few breaths here. So I really like to focus on that upper body work. If you're doing those flows on your own, you could even do like 10 of each of those arm movements. Something that I noticed that was lacking when I first started doing yoga, and I'm not gonna, generalize that everyone's in this position, but for me, I had a very weak upper body when I first started practicing, and the instruction was not there for me to get the upper body stronger. So when I started to flow, I kept my arms straight, and all I did was just drop my hips to the floor when we did upward dog. And I was putting a lot of pressure on my lower back, and I wasn't really gaining anything with my upper body. So I really like to focus on those muscles, those postural muscles, also creating bone density in the upper body that doesn't get quite as much resistance as our legs. Inhale, bending your knees. Exhale, walking those feet forward. Halfway lift, inhale. Exhale, fold. Inhale, hands to the sky, nice big opening smile. Exhale, fold forward, round 4. Halfway lift, inhale. Exhale, taking your hands down, stepping back. Again, you can drop the knees here if you like, or maybe keep them lifted. We're going to lower to that halfway point. Pause, take a breath in, exhale, and lifting up, another breath in. So this time, maybe you stayed off the ground, maybe you lowered down. If you had to lower here, keeping it a little bit lower, the elbows stay bent. If you're pressing all the way up here, I want the thighs and the hips to be off of the ground. Everything is super active. If you haven't practiced with me before, I just wanted to break that down. So from that upward dog, come back to downward dog. Probably feeling the body temperature raise a little bit. Maybe those calves are feeling a little bit more open. But remember that your priority in downward dog is not straight legs. It's a nice long spine. We want to prioritize the spine, the nervous system over having the ability to touch our toes. Nice big breath in, bending the knees. Exhale, walking or hopping those feet forward. Halfway lift, inhale. Exhale, fold. Inhale, reaching the arms overhead. Exhale, fold forward, one more flow. This time we're going to do that full expression. If it's available for you, or whatever variation you like, halfway lift, inhale. Exhale, fold, take your hands down, stepping back, finding that full plank. Press the arms into the floor to feel that active chest and shoulder area. Bending the elbows, keep them nice and close. Reverse push-up. Take a pause. You either lower all the way or inhale, lift forward. Belly button's drawn in. Exhale, sending those hips back to downward dog. Beautiful. It's a nice warm-up. It could stand alone as its own practice. Synchronizing your left and right sides gets the left and right brain working together. Helps to balance out any muscle preferences when we're right-handed, left-handed. Sometimes in sports, it's the opposite. And it helps to lengthen the front and back lines of the body. Sometimes you find that we have the ability to fold forward, but if we open up the front of the body, it's really uncomfortable, really tight from, maybe sitting at a desk or just sitting in that modern human position. Bending your knees, nice big breath in, and walking the feet forward with your exhale. Halfway lift, inhale. Exhale, fold forward. We're moving into sun salutation B now, a little bit more active as we prepare to come into our standing poses. Sinking the hips down, inhale, hands to chair pose. Hips are low, you can see your toes in front of your knees. Exhale, folding forward. Halfway lift, inhale. Exhale, take the hands down, and then stepping back with the breath in. This is where you choose where you flow. Wherever you're going, you're going to exhale to lower and inhale to lift. I like to drop my knees for some of these because it can be a lot. We're going to do 3 flows with every flow. So opening up the front, exhale back to downward dog. This one we're not going to hold. You're going to bring the right leg back behind you. Wherever it goes, maybe it's 2 inches off the ground, maybe it's super high in the sky. Wherever you end up, just get that extra little lift. And then knee into chest, gliding forward, 3-legged plank. Step your foot as far forward as you can. If you only get halfway there, grab onto your ankle, bring that foot forward. Inhale, reaching the arms overhead, crescent lunge. First time around, I like to hold a little bit longer than a traditional practice, just so you can acquaint yourself, especially on Monday. So when you come into this pose, you want those hips to be relatively square, so find your hip bones, noticing if your tendency is to twist. After you've done this practice for a while, you will naturally come into that muscle memory. Back heel is lifted, everything's pointing forward. First asymmetrical pose of the day, so it might feel a little wobbly. Exhale, taking the hands down to the ground. We'll repeat for the other side. Stepping the right foot back, inhale. Exhale, lowering down. Inhale, lifting up. Exhale, back to downward dog. Inhaling your left leg back behind you, same thing. Notice where it naturally goes. Just a little extra lift. And then knee into chest, 3-legged plank. stepping your left foot forward. Again, getting that foot where you need to get it. This is also an option. You can have your feet super close. If this is where your crescent lunge is, front knee is over front ankle. If it wants to go farther, your feet want more space. Maybe the arms are up, maybe they're on hips. Give yourself a moment to feel this pose. Left and right might feel different. We're creating a bit of a forward fold on the left side and a bit of a back bend on the right. Taking one more nice big breath in here. Exhale, folding forward. Picking up that left foot, placing it back. Exhale, lowering down. Inhale, lifting up. Exhale, back to downward dog or child's pose if you need it. This is where we're taking that little rest. If you need water, it's a great time for it as well. I tend to not take too many water breaks, but please listen to your body above all else when you are practicing. If you're in child's pose and you need a longer rest, stay there as long as you need to. Catch up when you feel ready. If you're in downward dog, bending your knees, exhale, walking or hopping those feet forward. 2 more rounds. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Sinking the hips, inhale, hands to chair. Exhale, folding forward. Halfway lift, inhale, moving with each breath. Exhale, taking the hands down, stepping back. Exhale, lower. Inhale, lift. Exhale, back to downward dog. Inhale, reaching that right leg back. Take that extra little lift. And inhale, stepping forward. Sorry, inhale, lift. Exhale, step forward. Get those all mixed up here. As long as you're breathing, that's the most important part. Inhale, reaching the arms overhead. As the exhale comes, this time we're lowering the hands right away. Reaching the right foot back with a breath in. Exhale, lower again. You can skip the flow if you need to. Inhale, opening the front of the body. Exhale, back to downward dog. Inhale, the left leg up. Just a little extra lift. Knee into chest, stepping forward. Exhale. Inhale, the arms up. Exhale, lowering the hands down. Taking your left foot back, breath in. Exhale, lower. Inhale, lifting up. Exhale, back to downward facing dog or child's pose. Continuing to breathe here. If your breath is a little bit gasping, if you notice that you need a little bit of a break, listen to your body here. What do you need? Maybe you need to challenge yourself. Maybe you need to actually listen to that voice that's telling you to slow down. Taking a nice big breath in from that downward dog, bend the knees a little bit more. Exhale, walking or hopping the feet forward. Halfway lift, inhale. Exhale, folding forward. Sinking the hips, inhale the hands to chair. Exhale, fold, 1 more round here. Halfway lift, inhale. Exhale, hands down to the ground, stepping back to plank. Lowering down with an exhale. Lifting up with an inhale. Exhale, back to downward dog. Reaching your right leg back behind you, breath in, lift a little higher, and then exhale, stepping forward. Nice big inhale to lift up to that crescent lunge. Exhale, lowering the hands down. Inhale the right foot back. Exhale, lower. Inhale, lifting up. Exhale, back to downward dog. Reaching your left leg back behind you, extra little lift here. Knee into chest, stepping forward with an exhale. Inhale the arms overhead. Exhale, taking your hands down to the floor. Stepping the left foot back. Elbows nice and close as you lower. Inhale, opening up. Exhale back, downward dog or child's pose. 5 breaths. If you're a breath counter, if you're wondering, when are we doing the next thing? Sometimes the mind is really busy like that. I remember whenever I was in a longer held pose, I would be wondering how much longer I need to be here. Sometimes that helps. Sometimes it doesn't because everyone's length of breath is different. So whether you're in child's pose or you're in downward dog, bringing yourself back to the neutral point of a tabletop position. Give yourself the time to line up all of your bones. If you have a mirror nearby, that can help when you're first starting out to get used to what that feels like. And then bringing your index fingers parallel to each other and allowing the rest of your fingers to fan out on your mat. Pressing all of your knuckles into the floor, get that nice stretch in your hands. Now that your body's all warmed up, you can have your toes tucked under or tops of your feet flat, whatever's more comfortable here. And then move your shoulders in little figure eights over your wrists. Wrist pain is really common when you're first starting yoga. I like to mention it because I have no idea who I've got on the other side of the screen there. I had a lot of it early on, but it does get better if that gives you any hope. It really does. It's a lot about taking breaks and listening to your body, and it does improve, I promise. Taking a nice big breath in, pressing your hands into the floor as if you're doing the top of a push-up or you're trying to press the floor as far away from you as you can. So it feels like your chest is caving a little bit. The upper back is puffing up a little bit, but we're not doing a full cat pose here. We're keeping the pelvis pretty neutral. On an inhale, drop the chest down, squeeze the shoulder blades, and then exhale, pressing the floor away. Inhale, drop the chest, squeeze the shoulder blades. Exhale, press the floor away. This is a really awkward movement at first. Continue to move if you feel like you're connecting here. One of the big secrets is keeping the elbows straight and allowing the rib cage to move up and down in between the shoulder joints. And you might not get a lot of movement here to start. You might feel a lot of heat build in those shoulders really early on. This is called a scapular push-up. So it's actually getting the shoulder blade to glide along the rib cage. All right, so let's find that push-up position again here. Drop it or light, bringing the knees back a little bit. And then tucking the toes under, coming back into a downward dog. If that feels a little bit long for you, can walk the feet forward here. It's kind of nice to have that extra space. Turning the biceps slightly towards the ceiling, reaching your right leg back behind you. Lift a little bit higher, and then take your knee into your chest, three-legged plank. Taking your right knee towards your right elbow, squeeze them together. Inhale, stretch that leg back behind you. Take your knee into your chest. Right knee to left elbow, little twist here. Inhale, stretch it back. One more time, knee into chest, and then we're gonna step right through into that runner's lunge. I like to come up onto fingertips, gives me a little bit of a longer arm. Pressing into that front foot, lifting the arms overhead, coming into crescent lunge. This time we're gonna actually hang out in this pose for a moment. If you're not sure what your alignment is feeling like, find those hip bones, draw the left hip forward just a little bit here, creating that strength in the hip zone, and then the hands come overhead. There's certain poses I always explore, poses that are not necessarily challenged on an everyday basis that yoga is just so great for. Transitions in yoga, so moving from one pose to another, are those places where we want to be most careful. Taking the time, if you need to take 3 breaths to get from one pose to another, take that time. Sinking a little bit deeper into that front leg, maybe the back knee bends a little bit. Stacking knee over ankle, try not to go beyond here. Rib cage is drawn towards the hips, feeling that line of tension. You might even feel the front of the left hip open up even more when you do that. All right, let's take hands to hips here and then open up the back foot. Trying to keep that right knee pointing forward as we move the legs into an open position, ready for warrior two. Bending into the front knee, feeling that leg open up, so you're pressing the outside of your right knee towards the outside of your mat. Arms are lifted here if that feels comfortable. Pressing into the outer edge of the back foot, the big toe is turned slightly inward on the left side. Gazing over the front fingers and relaxing the face. One more breath in. Exhale, hands to hips. Straightening the front leg. And then feeling the hip bone, so your right hand is going to drop down, your left hand is going to lift up. So we've got that little bit of a hip tilt here. Try to keep your chest upright for this first part and notice what happens with the legs just by moving the pelvis. The spine's going to want to drop forward. So directing all that movement from the hips first. Take a few breaths here. The last couple of classes, we haven't spent as much time with this one. So notice what you can do just by moving the hips. And if you feel the urge, you can extend that right hand down very lightly. We're not leaning weight into that hand, but very lightly resting on the right leg. Maybe the left hand extends up. Lots of strength in the core here. That's where all that practice of hips to ribs is coming in here. We want to keep the spine long. We don't want it bending sideways. Triangle pose. If it's easy to grab onto your big toe here, you can grab that big toe, have that extra length, but don't go beyond something that you can keep your steady breath in. Nice big breath in here, lift a little bit higher, and then bending the right knee, elbow to thigh, reaching the arm directly overhead, or extending that left arm to create a 45-degree angle through the body. Dropping that right hip a little bit lower, keeping lots of space between the right ear and the right shoulder. Looking up at that lifted elbow, staying with your breath. We're going to take the left hand on the next exhale, windmill, so circle that hand all the way down to the floor, planting the left palm, lift the back heel, right hand reaches up, nice twist. Hugging the right knee into the chest, stretching out the hip there. Exhale the right hand to the floor. Stepping your right foot back to meet your left, lowering down. Inhale, lifting up. Exhale back to downward dog. Now I'm going to switch sides just so that I'm not turning my back to you when we move to the other side here. Inhaling your left leg back behind you, get that extra little bit of lift up here. Knee into chest, keeping the leg lifted here. Left knee to left elbow. Squeeze them together. Inhale, stretch it back. Knee into chest, inhale. Left knee to right elbow, twisting. Inhale, reach it back. Knee into chest, and placing that foot forward into your runner's lunge. Reaching the arms overhead, finding that crescent lunge. Taking time to find that pose. Breathing here, noticing where the hip bones are. Playing around with the position of your knees. Maybe the distance between your feet. Hips and ribs drawn towards each other, allowing those hip flexors on the right side to open. Allowing your pose to evolve as you breathe. Allowing those subtle shifts. Noticing from flow to flow how the standing postures shift for you. Maybe they become easier, maybe they become harder. Maybe they feel completely different. Inhale, lift a little higher. Exhale, take the hands to the hips, keeping that left leg planted. We're gonna rotate around the left hip socket to draw that hip open. I usually wiggle my back foot back a little bit, but see where you're at. If this is where your pose is today, and that's enough of a strain on your hip, hang out with this. This is still warrior two. Listen to where that hip is. It's not normal for us to swing our leg right out to the side, so this really takes time to soften into. Pressing the outside of your left knee open, activating the external hip rotators, the glute muscles. Ideally, you see your big toe on the inside of your left knee. Back toe, the back big right toe, is turned slightly inward and you're pressing into the outside edge of that foot, trying to keep the arch lifted. You might not see a lot of a lifted arch, but it's the intention that counts. Arms are reaching out to the sides and gaze is over that left hand. Softening the face, feeling the breath settle. Feeling the heat around the hips, maybe even to the shoulders. Then we bring our attention to the left knee, straightening the left knee, bringing hands to hips. Feeling the right hand lift, the left hand lower, just by moving the hip bones and keeping the chest upright to start. For me, I feel a lot of stretch behind my knee when I do that, just by tilting the hips, because of all of the ligaments and muscles that are anchored to the hip bone that I am tilting backwards. So I don't really find that I need to reach forward, but I can. I'm getting a lot from this. I usually do stay here. For the purposes of this class though, if I decide I'm going to lengthen the spine, and I can actually hold that triangle pose without using the arm, and then just let the left hand end up wherever it does, right hand reaches up, staying really light here. I don't need the leg. Maybe over time, I inhale to lengthen the spine, exhale to settle a little bit more, allowing that breath to be an important part of settling into the pose. If the balance is there, looking up at your lifted hand, taking a nice big breath in, and then taking a bend to the left knee, dropping down here, elbow to thigh. Maybe that back foot creeps backwards even more, maybe not. Maybe this is where this pose is. Still want to keep that long spine, still want to keep the gap between your ear and your shoulder. So from my head all the way down to my hips is one straight line. Maybe your hip drops a little bit lower. Hand directly up or 45-degree angle. Looking up, since we're closer to ground, maybe the balance is a little bit better here. Staying with that breath. On your next exhale, we're going to windmill the right arm down to the ground, so reaching it overhead, nice big stretch through the shoulder. Planting fingertips or palm with the right hand, lift the back heel, and the left hand reaches up as the left knee hugs into the chest. Taking that nice twist, stretching out the left hip. One more nice big breath in here. Taking the left hand back down, reaching the left foot back, lower down with an exhale. Inhale to lift up. Exhale back to downward dog. Exhale, lowering the knees to the mat. Taking your big toes together, take your knees wider than hip distance, dropping your hips down to the heels, and then bringing your baby fingers to the edges of your mat. So your arms are in like a nice big Y position. Taking your right hand on top of your left hand. I'm keeping my head lifted off the mat so you can hear me talk here, but really let your head drop as low as possible. So the right hand is stacked on top of the left hand. We're creating length on the right side of the body. Resting your head on your left bicep if that feels comfortable, and using your breath to stretch out the open side of the rib cage. If it feels good, you can walk your hands even farther than the edge of your mat. Taking your right hand back to the right side of your mat and bringing your left hand to follow. Feeling the open left side of the body, resting the right ear on the right bicep. And you might notice that one side opens up a little easier than the other. Totally normal. We tend to have different sides that we favor sitting on, bending on. We usually don't sit perfectly straight when we're watching TV. Even just how we drive, we're not using left and right sides equally, or we carry a bag on one shoulder versus the other. So many different things in our daily life play a role in how we carry weight in our bodies. Taking your left hand back to the left side of the mat, floating back up to tabletop here, and then dropping your hips to one side. Bringing your feet in front of you, bring your feet out in front of you. So we went through the sides of the rib cage here. I like to move into the hips. It's just one of those areas that usually feels really good. It's also really calming for the nervous system at the end of a yoga class. And I should have just enough time to kind of get through each side. If this feels good and you have a grasp of what one side's like, stay there as long as you like to. If you have time after the class, I just want to respect the time. I don't usually do a ledge shavasana, but just keep that in mind at the end of class. If you do have time, even just lay down with your eyes closed for 10 breaths can really be beneficial for you. So sitting back into your hands, rocking your knees side to side. And we're gonna take both knees over. I'm gonna do opposites here, so it's like you're looking in the mirror. So we're gonna take both knees over to the right, your right side, bringing your right foot to your left kneecap. And then you should see a triangle form by your left thigh and your right upper and lower leg bones. Turning your body to the right knee, and then place one hand on each side of the right kneecap. Your left hip will be lifted off the ground, totally fine. And I want you to think about tipping your tailbone up. So like sticking your butt back behind you. Nice big breath in. And as you exhale, fold so that you're dropping your belly to your thigh here. So this you want to, because we're not actually using any muscular strength, I want you to forget about what I was mentioning when we were doing the upward dog, where we were really using muscular strength to move into things. Now you can actually let yourself bend into that lower back here and allow yourself to just melt over here. This is about releasing and letting go. And we can approach it in a different way. So every inhale, feel the spine lengthen. Every exhale, let another inch or two of the body fold on top of the thigh. You might walk the hands farther forward to help your body resist gravity here. You may feel this in your lower back, your hamstring, your hip, somewhere else, maybe the inner thigh, maybe up into the shoulders. Everybody's different. We're all feeling that weakest link in a different way. Maybe the forearms come all the way down to the floor. You might stack your fists, you might grab a block or a couple books to rest your forehead on. And this is a place where you can really hang out as long as you like. Sometimes if I'm doing this before bed, I might hold each side, for 2 or 3 minutes. For here, I'd like you to just get a little bit of a taste of it. If this is the only class we ever do together, I'm hoping that you can gain something from it. So I like to introduce as much as possible. This is one of those poses that you could do every day, and it really helps to reset just that general lower back, hip, and hamstring area and bring all those muscles back into kind of synchronicity. Taking 2 more breaths on this side here. Using those exhales to let go. And then bringing the palms of your hands back to the floor, slowly rolling yourself back off of that thigh, bringing your feet out in front of you, rocking your knees side to side. And then we're going to shift to the other side. So we'll take the knees over to the left, bringing your left foot to your right kneecap. So we're going to wedge those together as much as possible. Taking one hand on each side of the left kneecap, feeling the right hip lift up, totally fine. Nice big breath in, reaching the belly forward as you slowly fold. And if you feel a little bit of a stretch going on right here, hang out with it. Close your eyes, bringing yourself back to that place that we started class today, where you develop that sensitivity to the little things that you're feeling in your body. For me, sometimes I'll approach this by staying there and not moving deeper into this pose until I allow that sensation to subside a little bit. And sometimes it's just not happening, and I'm just going to allow it to be what it is. Inhale, lengthening the spine. Exhale, allow yourself to sink. If you ever notice yourself taking a breath in and finding it's too intense to really take that proper breath, It's maybe a sign that you should take a step back, find a simpler variation, and really allow yourself to get more curious about that pose before moving forward. So wherever you end up here, we'll do 3 more breaths. Allowing each side to be its own entity. Don't expect the left side and the right side to take you to the same place. Relaxing the feet, softening the face, slowing the breath down. And then very slowly walking your hands back towards that knee, bringing your feet out in front of you, rocking your knees side to side. At this point, if you do have the time, I really do encourage you to close your eyes and lay back on your mat, either with legs stretched out or bent knees, and take a few conscious breaths. But for the sake of time, I thank you so much for joining me for class today, and I hope to see you again next week. Thanks, guys. Take care.